exciting time for Wikipedia. I've been reflecting a lot about 25 years of Wikipedia. This is also my 17th or 18th Davos, so that's a bit ridiculous. When I first came here, I was a young global leader. Now I'm just old, but that's okay. And so our panel tonight, we're going to explore the future of knowledge, so particularly online knowledge. And we are at this moment of profound technological and epistemic change. We've seen the rise of AI, we've seen a lot of changes to the way people get information on the internet. And we're going to focus in particular on open knowledge, and access to knowledge is a big part of what we're doing. So we've got a fantastic panel. I'm going to introduce the panel here. I want to make sure I've got everybody's proper biography, and so I can get it all right. So we've got Kamila Markram. She's the co-founder and CEO of Frontiers. And yeah, come up. And I guess I'm going in this order. You just maybe sit under your picture. So Kamila is a neuroscientist, and well, I'll ask her some questions, and she'll tell us a bit more. We have who should I do next? Mark Doumba. He is the Minister of Digital Economy and Innovation for Gabon. And I had lunch with him today, and he's got a lot of interesting things to say about knowledge and growth in his country. So yeah, come and join us, Mark. Fantastic. And then we have Bill Gross. Now, for Bill, I've known Bill for many, many years, and actually, if you look in Wikipedia for serial entrepreneur, it just redirects to Bill Gross's page. So if you want to know all about him, you can read in Wikipedia, but he's done so many different things on the internet, and he's actually working something very, very interesting and timely with ProRata.ai. So Bill, come up and join us. So great. I'm going to sit down now. I'll start with Mark. Mark, unfortunately, this being Davos, he's going to have to leave us a little bit early, but we've got him for a while, so I thought we'd give him the first word. So Mark, for many countries in the global south, open knowledge is not just a public good, but a development necessity. How do you see AI reshaping access to knowledge, opportunity, and sovereignty for countries like Gabon?
Thank you, Jimmy, for this question, and congratulations for the 25 years here at Wikipedia. We've all used this, we've gone to school, we've studied, referenced some of our write-ups through the sources that you've been able to put together. So I would say that for a country like Gabon and for the global south in general, AI and open knowledge is a critical infrastructure. In many of our countries, we have a deficit of professors that can teach certain specific knowledge in STEM, in different topics, and being able to have access and to enable our students to have access to open knowledge platforms, to be able to seek information, to be able to skill up is a critical need. So the way we're trying to look at it from a policy perspective is to embrace this innovation, is to regulate it in a way that can expand access, especially through connectivity, through mobile-first access in rural areas, through schools. Recently in Gabon, in November, we piloted, started connecting different schools to open knowledge so that students can go to the schools and actually access the internet and access knowledge remotely, because many just don't have internet at home. So some of the difficulties that you might find in the global north, you won't find in the global south. So that makes it particular. And the last thing that I'll say about AI is many of our countries are still grappling with how do you regulate it in a time in the context of sovereignty. From the moment that we start putting and contributing data and information onto those AI platforms, then suddenly the issue of sovereignty comes, because we provide content, but we don't control it. We don't know how it's being used, the different ways that it gets derivated. So I think governments are really grappling with the issue of sovereignty when it comes to data and AI.
Great. Yeah, fantastic. Very good. Thank you. Kamila, we were just talking backstage, and you started to tell me a little bit about Frontiers and how you got started, and I stopped you because I was like, oh, we should talk about that on stage. But the question for you, which you can weave in some of that, is how is AI shaping the future of knowledge for the next 25 years? And in particular, what's the role of open science?
Goodness me. Okay, so where do we start? Congratulations, 25 years. Yeah. I think Jimmy and Wikipedia is one, so wonderful. So we are 18 years old, and we started it really out of a frustration, I would say, because the way how our science would get published, like you conduct it in a research lab, 3 years, you write it up into a paper, and then you submit it to a journal, where it very often gets rejected because it's maybe not interesting enough, or we have a lot of scientists, so they all know what I'm talking about, the frustration with peer review. And then once it does get published, it's actually not accessible. So when I published my first paper at one of the richest universities in the world, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Lausanne, I had to buy it with my own credit card because we did not have the subscription. So we said enough is enough, let's do something about it rather than complaining, and let's start frontiers. How difficult can it be to build a technology platform to quality certify articles at scale? So that was 18 years ago. Now, we thought that it would go much, much faster to make all of science open. That's the mission of Frontiers. Make all of science open so that humans, and now as well artificial intelligence, can actually build on top of it. So it's not quite there yet. Today, 6 million articles are being published. Less than half of it is openly accessible. The vast majority still sits behind a paywall. So that's not just a problem for humans, for researchers who are trying to access this, for your country, who's probably has quite a few visibility on this research, but it's also a problem now for artificial intelligence. And there's two aspects in that. There are the research articles, and then there's the research data. Research article, in theory, that's a marriage made in heaven. It's text, and we have the LLMs, the large language models. So there's a huge advancement that AI is bringing now to research articles. It digests it, ingests it, digests it, and you can ask it amazing questions about quantum physics, about the latest in neuroscience, and it will prepare it for you. But it has very limited access to the research. So if you do ask it about a healthcare problem, it may not give you the full answer because it doesn't know the full answer. So that really is an issue for AI today. The other thing where I see that we have huge potential is on scientific data. That's really, while articles are maybe the tip of the iceberg, the real big iceberg is the scientific data. And there we have to digitize it and then build the models to allow artificial intelligence to build on top of that. And if we can do that, I think the acceleration for innovation is just a huge potential. We're starting to see it with AlphaFold, for example, that's building on amino sequence data, that's built on the Human Genome Project. We've had here an amazing session by Anne Metcalf on the Human Immuno Project as well, digitizing everything about the human immune system, and then we can have artificial intelligence to find new targets for drugs for us. And we also spoke about the Human Brain Project, which is reconstructing the brain in a supercomputer, building a digital twin. And then we can actually as well learn the next level of artificial intelligence that's inspired by how the brain learns and not necessarily how artificial intelligence today learns. So there's huge potential for marrying science with artificial intelligence for all of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great to kind of put both of these together a little bit. I remember I used to have this slide when I would give presentations, and it was a screenshot of it was a scientific article in a major journal, and it was, the title of the article was something very much like the problems of access to knowledge in sub-Saharan Africa. And then right at the bottom, you had to click. To read this article about this, it was $35. Yeah. So this is one of the problems with access to knowledge in sub-Saharan Africa, is to even learn about it, you have to pay. So, that's a huge problem. So Bill, AI is increasingly built on open knowledge infrastructures like Wikipedia, yet value capture often flows elsewhere. From your perspective, what would a fair and sustainable model of attribution and compensation look like for the sources that underpin AI systems?
Yes, well, first of all, I have to also congratulate you, not only on 25 years, but for your prescience in creating something like this. And who would have thought, I certainly wouldn't have, that you could make something with volunteers that is this accurate and this accessible and this democratic, that is a top 10 website competing against trillion-dollar companies. Yeah. So you're competing against trillion-dollar companies and you have won. Really, really incredible.
Fantastic, thank you.
So it has been so important for society, the project that you started. And it's really important for the next 25 years that it's used in a way and delivered in a way that causes more equality and not less equality. And that is exactly how we make this accessible to all. The ability for people to now ask questions and get direct answers is so powerful. Think about how incredible Google was for the last 25 years, where you could type in a request, a few words, and get 10 links back, which were breadcrumbs to the answer, but not the actual answer. And now you can type in a question and get the actual answer. So that is game-changing for civilization. And think about how incredible it is that we're alive at that moment, this turning point in history, where, say, 2025, 2026, or this decade, where that has happened. So to make sure that that gets available to everybody, we need to make sure that all the creators who contribute have some stake in this game and can compete against those trillion-dollar companies so they don't run away with it themselves, because they don't have as much interest in sharing with everybody as you have. And I feel that by tracking the provenance of the creators, giving credit and attribution everywhere, is the way to make sure that the incentives are aligned for creators to continue to create. Because if all AI companies just crawl everything like Napster, snarf it up without giving credit or any compensation, then the incentive will go away, and then I think we'll be dealing with a lot of AI slop. AI building on top of AI, building on top of AI, but no original content being made that has the ground truth. And one example of the ground truth that's just incredible, I don't know how many of you have seen the following thing happen on Wikipedia. When a live event happens, it only takes seconds for it to be up on Wikipedia. Like if the Super Bowl is happening and a touchdown is scored that changes the game at the last minute, 5 seconds later, 5 creators have added that information and verified it and validated it. And that is just amazing that you created that incentive scheme. We have to keep that. We have to keep that for the next 25 years.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. And what's incredible is we don't, like the Wikipedia community, we're quite firm that we are not journalists.
Yes.
And so when we're doing that, we really depend on journalism, journalists, and obviously the changes in how people are getting access to knowledge is beginning to have a huge impact on an already beleaguered industry. The local newspapers have collapsed a long time ago, and this is a huge problem for writing Wikipedia articles. Like, we can't write the history of a small town somewhere if there's no local newspaper and no news. That first draft of history, so to speak, is really important. And what we're doing at Wikipedia, I mean, one of the things, we're different from a lot of publishers. So a lot of publishers don't have the philosophy that Wikipedia has, which is, this is our gift. This is free. Take it, copy it. You have to follow our license, which requires attribution. So there's that. But what we've faced recently is the AI crawlers were just absolutely hammering our servers. And I personally didn't realize until somebody pointed it out to me from our tech team how disproportionate the impact was. Because I thought, even if it's 1,000 bots, so what? We have 2 billion devices every month accessing Wikipedia. But it turns out, like, when humans are accessing Wikipedia, they go to the most popular pages. Like, so example, when the Queen died, obviously millions of people will have come to Wikipedia to read the page in whatever their language was about the Queen, which means, and most people who are reading aren't logged in. So that means it's just cached in memory. It's cached in memory. We just blast it out. That doesn't cost very much money. What does cost money is if you go through and crawl the entirety of Wikipedia, then we need more database servers. We need more web servers that are building the page and creating it to send it out. Or we have to cache even more in RAM, which is also very expensive. And so what we have the enterprise products. We're encouraging all of the AI bots and crawlers to come and pay for access in a way that technologically works for us and makes more sense for them. And I think we started out with encouraging, but we've increasingly started saying, like, come on, like, we're going to block you, so you need to get on board here. And part of the ethical argument there has been, look, the average donation to Wikipedia, which is largely supported by the general public, average donation is just over $10. And so the people who are donating $10 are donating to support our community, to support our work, to keep the project going. They aren't here to subsidize OpenAI hammering our servers. And so it's like, at a very minimum, pay for what you're using. Like, that's just basic kindergarten ethics, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
you're using it, you should pay for it. And actually, that's a lot of donors. Not everybody donates, obviously, and that's fine. It's a gift to the world. But a lot of donors, that appeals to them to say, oh, I use it all the time, I should chip in. And it's sort of like, if you're using it, like, 10 million pages a day, yeah, you definitely better chip in.
Yeah, I don't think the bots have credit cards.
yeah, I know. But their owners have credit
Yes,
cards, so
exactly.
yes. So we'll go back now to Mark. Mark is the minister, digital minister in Gabon, and so is well fixed to give us his views on this. What role should governments play in protecting open and reliable knowledge infrastructures while also fostering innovation and local AI ecosystems?
Contrarily to what many countries believe, it's not natural resources that drive development or economic development. It's knowledge. Countries that are high income because they've accumulated knowledge over time and they've learned to harness that knowledge to increase their productivity and to invent things like Wikipedia and to increase the availability of public knowledge for all. So I think my role as Minister of Innovation is to make sure that we can also acquire and accumulate human capabilities in order to catch up and in order to ensure that we can also accelerate our pathway towards prosperity. So that's the lens through which we look at things. It's really important. Expanding the availability of knowledge to the Gabonese population. The frameworks and the policy environments that we're putting in place, we don't yet have AI regulations. I think sometimes that, countries like Gabon, some countries in sub-Saharan Africa are a bit late to the party when it comes to big AI. But I like to say that we're fashionably late, right? Because I think that we have the advantage of being able to observe how early movers have regulated this space, have harnessed it, and the positive or negative externalities that it's had on their communities, on their societies. So now we have enough data points to sort of, move into the regulating space. And we don't think that countries like Gabon should rush into AI. We think we should sequence our way there by ensuring that at each stage of development of AI, our population can absorb AI, right? Whether it means increasing the capacity absorption from an education perspective. I spoke earlier about expanding connectivity to places that don't have connectivity. You cannot have AI just for 1%, 2%, or 3% of your population, the elite. Then you'd be increasing the digital divide, increasing the knowledge gap, and perpetuating income and wealth disparities, which is not what we want. So the way we're looking at it is really from a comprehensive perspective, how we can ensure that everybody has access to it, how we can create policy where big companies or middle companies can look at Gabon's policy environment in a way that's like, oh, this is an interesting place within this part of the world where that's usually underrepresented, where we don't really have much content coming from it. As you know, less than 5%, I think, of content used from AI is, just not, I think English is 50% of the product, and maybe I think Spanish comes second with 5%, so French is later, and then the African languages are like a fraction of that. So it's a matter of how do you make sure that you create an AI economy and AI content that reflects our culture, our viewpoints, our perspectives, in order for it to be reflective, to be mirroring, and to be empowering, and to be an engine that really powers our growth and development.
Can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
So I had a software company in the 1990s called Knowledge Venture, educational software company. And at that time, I don't know if you remember, Dell Computers was just taking over compared to Compaq computers. Because Compaq computers would make their computers and put them on shelves in stores, and it would take about 4 months for them to sell. So they only have 2.5 turns of inventory per year. But Dell would only take 2 weeks to make a computer because they would make it to order. So they had 26 turns on inventory per year. So more turns on inventory really, really helped. And I modified that to call our company to do turns on knowledge. How fast could you make some new knowledge and get new? And you just triggered that when you said the knowledge of your people matters so much. If you could give your people the tools to have 52 turns on knowledge every year, where every week they learn something new to improve, that would be so dramatic for society. And you inspired me to try and figure out ways that we could take all of the local content and make a proprietary AI system for people so they could have 52 turns on knowledge. That would allow them to outcompete others who are behind. And that's just very, very exciting. That would be a democratizing force.
Can I add to this as well?
Yeah,
Because
this is great.
it's a turn of knowledge, right? Science is building on science. And if you put a blockage to it, right, you can't access this to science, then you can't do these turns fast enough. Whereas when you open up all of the science, the research articles, and think of the data that comes next, if you open it up, you can turn so much faster. And I'm convinced that we would have already cures to cancer, to Alzheimer. You know, like today I sat on a neuroscience panel, I moderated it. I kept asking them, so where's the pill for Alzheimer's? And it's still 5 years away. But I'm convinced if we had all of the science openly accessible in neuroscience, in biology, whatever it is, we already would have this cure for Alzheimer's or cancer. It would be here because it is these turns of knowledge and they go much faster when the science
and also, as an entrepreneur, and think about any of you who are smaller companies than the trillion-dollar companies, it's the advantage that a small company has. The big companies, they have more money, they have more people, they have more brand, they have everything, they have more locations, but they can't move as fast. They can't do a turn on knowledge every week because they're a huge battleship that can't turn that fast. So it's the one advantage that a small country or a small company can have, or a small science group can have. So have to take advantage of it.
And then we level the playing field, but then because then your countries can have access to this knowledge and build on top of it.
Yeah, just to riff on all of this, like one of the things that I think is really interesting is the cost of software development, like to create an app, has dropped enormously, which is going to have all kinds of employment implications and all that. But one of the implications is, so one of the things that a big company in Silicon Valley can't do is have any understanding whatsoever or any economic reason to care about the specific needs of people in Gabon. But the local people, they say, oh, this is a piece of software that I could use and that people I know could use. And if the cost of developing, so instead of needing a team of 20, you need 2 people to create a very useful piece of software. And if your economic situation is such that you don't need to earn a $200,000 a year Silicon Valley salary, you know, if you're earning $10,000 a year, that's great. Like that, I made an app and it was fantastic, and it's the most popular app in Gabon, and that's wonderful. That is the kind of thing that I'm going to be excited to see, and that is all about that openness, access, cheaper, and of course, what I always hope is then I want to see one of the apps from like that also blow up globally and become huge and big all over the world.
One of the most incredible things of the last 50 years is Moore's Law. Gordon Moore, who declared that, it wasn't a law, but it was just a pattern that he saw. And Moore's Law was the doubling every 18 months, having a price every 18 months. Well, the cost of tokens is going down way faster than Moore's Law, and the cost of software development is going down even faster than that. Like you said, the cost of software development has gone down 10x in the last year. That's way, way faster than Moore's Law. So there's really, really big opportunities for small groups of people to take advantage of that. And you also said that the big company can't understand what's happening in a small country. They also sometimes can't even do something when they even invent it. Look at Google. They invented the transformer architecture in 2017, and they couldn't even do it because they were too worried about what it might lead to until OpenAI forced their hand. And then now Google has done amazing jobs to catch up with Gemini. But look at how many years later that is. So the small companies can do things much, much faster.
But this is actually, there's a funny little anecdote from the early days of Wikipedia. Because people say, why didn't Britannica just do this? They had so many advantages.
Exactly.
And one of the anecdotes is, very early in the history of Wikipedia, one day somebody vandalized the front page. Back then, even the front page was open for editing. But anyway, somebody vandalized the front page to put a giant penis picture. And the servers were so overloaded because it got linked to from somewhere that from the web interface, we weren't able to take it on. I had to actually log into the server and physically delete the file. And that was, to me, I'm like, well, this is why Britannica can't do this, right? For us, it was like, oh, this is awkward, but we're a bunch of internet geeks, so whatever, you know, and nobody cared what we were doing at that time. Britannica would have been absolutely, people would have been fired and all of that. And we're just like, oh, well, that wasn't great.
That's the advantage.
You know?
That's the advantage of a small team.
Yeah, I mean, we probably debated for a month, but should we lock the front page or... That's not very wiki, you know, but eventually we're like, maybe the front page maybe doesn't need to be fully editable.
And Jimmy, if you allow me, think about, from the moment we seem to be aligned on the fact that the accumulation of knowledge is really what's really important if we want to keep pushing our world forward. think about how much knowledge Wikipedia has been able to accumulate over time. And then if you take into account all of the other platforms on the internet and put into perspective the fact that there are still hundreds of millions, if not billions of people that are just not there. With knowledge, whether it's based again on their specific circumstances or languages that are not being harnessed into this whole productive capability. And there are probably problems that we want to address collectively that we're not addressing because that knowledge is still just not within the productive space. So I think something really powerful about AI and the way Wikipedia has become a public good and about how we should look about progress as a collective force is how to bring in these people in order to contribute and harness it towards just our collective goal of moving forward and generating again, progress.
Yeah, I agree completely. One of the things that we think about, like, obviously we are interested in the traffic to Wikipedia, but we're not ad revenue based. So the exact number of clicks to our pages, we're not obsessed about it. But what we are obsessed is that attribution and people knowing that Wikipedia is made by humans and that we want people to come and help us. We always need new community members. And to the extent that we're being disintermediated and people don't know that there is this great community of like really nice geeks and you can come and join us and help us, that is something that we do think is like super critical. That participation, that human knowledge is super important.
I think two of the biggest sources that are cited by AI engines are Wikipedia and Reddit, all done by humans.
And
like
open access publishers.
And open access publishers. Yeah, no, it's exactly right. And I always say, they it needs to read Reddit so it can understand how people talk. And it needs to read Wikipedia to know how to answer them when they've got a question, so it's a little bit of both. Great. Now, I know, Mark, you're going to have to leave in a moment. Is there anything else you wanted to add before you walk out? Anything you want us to know?
Well, just again that, we spoke a bit at lunch, but Wikipedia is in a very interesting space. I think all of us have used it, right? It's become a common good. You've made it free. I think it's incredible. It's going to be really interesting how knowledge is harnessed now that you have internets within the internets. And that the way, big techs are moving is they're really trying to silo you or silo us as opposed to integrating each other, right? And that fragmentation, I think, is something that we need to look at very carefully. I think we need to really move into improving the governance structure of the way knowledge is going to be harnessed today and the future of knowledge. It's not fair, indeed, that people are producing knowledge not being compensated for it. It's not fair that you have this fragmentation and these different incentives that are being, and this corporatization of knowledge, right? You don't want commercial companies to determine what knowledge you should be consuming, why you should be consuming. As you're consuming this knowledge, you have an ad and it's leading you to consume something and to pay for something else. It's really important that we think about the governance of knowledge within the AI economy. And I think Wikipedia, being a public good and being the repository on which AI relies on significantly to distribute that knowledge across platforms, I think you have a big role to play. Wikipedia has a very important role to play in this new stage of the AI economy. Great sharing this panel with you. Thank you so much. And I hope it was really interesting.
Let's have a round of applause for Martin. We're going to go on a little further, but I know you need to leave, so thank you so much for your time. Kamila, back to one of my prepared questions, just to keep us rolling. Are there specific measures based on your experience that we need to take to ensure open science and knowledge can drive healthy societies? That's a very vague and abstract question, but there we go.
Indeed, can answer it in so many questions. But the reality is, that. I mean, the question implies that science is already open, but the reality is that really is not the case. If you take an amazing example such as COVID, when COVID hit, Chinese scientists actually sequenced the genetic code of the coronavirus, deposited it into the gene data bank, and it was openly accessible because our genomes are openly accessible. And that immediately triggered the race for the vaccine across the globe. And then 3 months later in March, we realized, the White House actually realized with a coalition of others, that if we want doctors to give us treatments and vaccines very fast, we need to give those doctors, the innovators, the researchers, access to the research articles. And it was the first time ever in history, after so many years of your work, of our work, that it was put into a database and all of these research articles were openly accessible. At the end of 2020, so 1 year into the pandemic, there was 1 million research articles, all openly accessible. And that is, like the underlying reason why we got those treatments and those vaccines at a pace that we've never seen before in human history. It was, of course, collaboration and other things that happened, a lot of investment, but it was the sharing of the science. But, I back then thought, well, now it's done. Now they got it. Like the whole world got it. We're going to do the same thing now for cancer, for other respiratory diseases, and then planetary health. Let's make it all open, because the reality is there. It's only 30%. But you know what happened? Today, the doors closed again. Like there's millions of COVID articles, and half of it is again behind a paywall. So we're doing a step forward, but we're going backwards again. So I think it's not over to make science openly accessible, but the promise of making the science openly accessible, and then in the second step, to bring out the scientific data. I mean, like the big databases like the human genome, immunome, the brain are now open resources, they're digitized. But the vast majority of the data still lies in the researcher labs, and they're not incentivized to put it online. And if we were to bring all of this online and make it as open as possible and as, like close as necessary wherever we need to protect patients and so forth, the potential for driving this innovation and getting this spin-off effect that you're saying is immense. And I think we've got no time to lose. I mean, today I was at a lunch, and the Salesforce lunch, and Mark Benioff asked, so where do you see yourself in the next 20 years, like to all of these thought leaders, etc. There's only one who said, well, in 20 years, if we continue the way that we do, it's going to be pretty warm here, and, not that many species may be left, and, we're in trouble. And we've really got no time to lose. We need more science. The simple solution is make it all totally accessible to people, to the researchers, to the innovators, to the tech companies, to the machines, and let's just bloody innovate on top of it.
Yeah, fantastic. Now, this is a great lead-in to my question for Bill, which is about looking 20, 25 years ahead. So let's say pick 25 since it's a 25-year anniversary of Wikipedia. So looking 20, 25 years ahead, are you optimistic that AI can strengthen the knowledge ecosystem rather than hollow it out? And what needs to change technically or economically for that optimistic scenario to materialize?
Well, I'm definitely optimistic, because you talked about the 1 million articles on COVID. Well, let's say you wanted to go work with that. You can't read 1 million articles. AI wasn't where it was in 2020.
Exactly.
But in the future, when we get your dream to come true, where all the articles are there, AI can help you digest those 1 million articles and make sense of them in a really, really powerful way. So if you ask the right questions and use AI as your thinking partner, that can be really powerful. So how do we get there? Well, I would say of this century, 2 of the most generous inventors, generous gifts to the world were maybe Satoshi coming up with the idea of a blockchain and a way of having transactions work, and you. You were so generous to take this idea and give it to the world. So how are we going to get the next 25 years to work the way the last 25 did with this and have it be even better? We need you as a role model to have other people copy you. We need other people with the same vision and generosity to give back without the pure profit motive and with the gift to humanity that you did. So I have to applaud what you did, which is just incredible. But
Thank you.
let's...
Well said.
I mean, that's really something, but I want to know, how do you know I'm not Satoshi?
But no, we need to tell the story of Wikipedia and tell your story so other people growing up want to be like you.
Yeah, well,
Because
thank you.
that would really help the world. That would really help.
Well, I highly recommend being me. I enjoy it very much. Yeah, great. So let's see, where are we here? You know, I don't know. I'm through with all of my
Well, that might be-
questions.
that
Let's
mi-
just keep talking, you know.
I just hope that all of you use the power of Wikipedia and use your thoughts to address the question you just gave, which is how do we make the next 25 years better than the last 25?
Yeah.
And how do we make it all of this in service of more equality and not less?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
that's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
That's not going to be easy.
I wanted to speak now. So one panelist we wanted to have here, but he left Davos this morning. He had to go back to work. Was Demis Hassabis.
Yes.
So Demis is the CEO of DeepMind, who's also won Nobel Prize in chemistry for the
AlphaFold.
protein folding, and it's amazing, like, truly an astonishing breakthrough and being shared openly and all of that. But one of the things that Demis said at a thing I saw him talking about yesterday is like the way he thinks, because I was thinking, I think he's a genius. So, you know, the way he thinks, he's always looking at parallels in different parts of science, or things, you know, like where could we apply something that we did over here,
Yeah.
that there's a similar problem, structurally similar problem somewhere else. And so, you know, things like, you know, they solved Go and sort of created that, and a self-learning mechanism. So, and I think that becomes all the more possible if you have completely open access to science.
Yeah.
So that somebody who's done an innovation in one area then can use maybe AI to summarize and say, oh, I read this one article and it seems like this problem might be similar over here. And that kind of interdisciplinary work is really, really hard, but it could be facilitated by, you know, AI helping sort of crunch and summarize things to help us, you know, figure out, is this really it? But also the openness, the ability
Yes.
for people to go, you know, in a completely different field. I think that's can be like really exciting.
Yeah, he saw incredible parallels. He started with simple games. He was doing Pong first, then he advanced to other video games, and then he advanced to Go, and then he advanced to AlphaFold. So, but he saw unbelievable similarities in the way you could train something to solve a problem with vision only, where the only thing he gave the AI was look at the score and try and maximize that. And it was incredible how he was able to teach, how they were able to learn how to play video games better than humans, very, very fast.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. There's a movie which is it's free on YouTube. It's really worth it. It's fun to watch too.
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's really
I
great.
highly
Yeah.
recommend it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about them. I'm sure if you
It's all about DeepMind.
Google will make it easy to find.
Yes,
let's
yes,
just say.
yes, yes.
Very good. Well, I think we can probably wrap up here. I think we're close to time. I want to thank
Thank you, Jimmy.
the panel. I want to thank you for hosting us here tonight. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Thank
Thank
you for
you.
coming, and
Thank
let's
you
hang
very
out.
much.